Imagine looking at the world, at the infinite variety of life around you, and believing that every single creature was placed exactly as it is, entirely unchanging, since the dawn of time. For thousands of years, this was the absolute truth. To question it was not just bad science, it was madness, it was heresy. But in 1831, a 22-year-old man stepped onto a ship called the HMS Beagle. He was not a rebel. He was a quiet, observant young man who had dropped out of medical school and was supposed to become a country priest. Yet, over the next 5 years, the things he saw would plant a seed in his mind that would eventually grow into the most dangerous, beautiful, and earth-shattering idea in human history. This is the story of a man who looked at a bird on a lonely island and ended up rewriting the story of life itself. This is the story of Charles Darwin. Charles Robert Darwin was born in 1809, on the exact same day as Abraham Lincoln, into a world that felt comfortably predictable. Growing up in a wealthy English family, expectations were heavy on his shoulders. His father, a successful doctor, looked at young Charles and saw a disappointment. Charles spent his time collecting beetles, wandering through the woods, and reading books rather than focusing on his formal studies. When he was sent to Edinburgh to study medicine, he found the lectures incredibly dull and the brutal, unanesthetized surgeries completely horrifying. He simply couldn't stomach it. In despair, his father transferred him to Cambridge to study theology, hoping his son would at least secure a quiet, respectable life as a clergyman. Charles went along with it, but his heart belonged to the natural world. He spent his time at Cambridge collecting more insects and walking with botany professors, completely unaware that his life was about to take a dramatic turn. The turning point arrived in the form of a letter. The captain of a Royal Navy survey ship, the HMS Beagle, was looking for a gentleman companion for a voyage around the world. The captain, Robert Fitzroy, wanted someone who could converse with him, share his meals, and perhaps collect a few geological and biological specimens along the way. Despite his father's initial, vehement objections, Charles accepted. When the Beagle set sail in December of 1831, Charles was seasick, homesick, and completely unaware that he was about to embark on one of the most significant scientific expeditions in human history. The voyage was supposed to last 2 years. It took almost 5. As the ship charted the coastline of South America, the young naturalist was mesmerized. He spent most of his time on land, exploring the untamed wilderness, climbing mountains, and digging in the dirt. And it was in the dirt that the first cracks in his traditional worldview began to appear. In Argentina, Darwin unearthed the massive fossilized bones of extinct giant sloths and armadillos. These creatures were long gone, yet they looked astonishingly similar to the much smaller sloths and armadillos living in the exact same region right then. Why would there be extinct giants that perfectly resembled the living animals of today? The accepted belief was that species were created perfectly and never changed, and that extinction was perhaps the result of a great flood. But the dirt was whispering a different story to Darwin. It was whispering about time, deep time, and about a mysterious connection between the dead and the living. But the true catalyst for his revolutionary idea lay isolated in the Pacific Ocean. In the autumn of 1835, the Beagle dropped anchor at the Galapagos Islands, a harsh, volcanic archipelago off the coast of Ecuador. To the casual observer, it was a desolate, barren wasteland. But to Darwin, it was a living laboratory. Here, the animals were utterly fearless of humans. Marine iguanas dove into the ocean to feed on algae. Giant tortoises roamed the islands, and Darwin was casually informed by the local governor that he could tell which island a tortoise came from just by looking at the shape of its shell. This passing comment lodged itself deep in Darwin's brain. Why would islands that were practically right next to each other, with the exact same climate and volcanic soil, have tortoises with completely different shells? And then there were the birds. Darwin collected several small, unexceptional brown birds during his time on the islands. He didn't think much of them initially, tossing them all into his collection without carefully noting which island each came from. It was a mistake he would deeply regret later. When he finally returned to England, an expert ornithologist examined these plain brown birds and delivered a shocking revelation. They were not just a random assortment of birds. They were all distinct species of finches, entirely unique to the Galapagos, yet closely related to the finches on the South American mainland. Furthermore, the finches from different islands had remarkably different beaks. Some had thick, heavy beaks for crushing hard seeds. Others had long, slender beaks for probing into cactus flowers. Some even had sharp beaks for grasping insects. In the quiet study of his English home, the pieces of the puzzle began to snap together. The giant fossils, the distinct tortoises, the specialized finches. The traditional story of creation could not explain this, but a new, radical idea could. What if a few ordinary finches had blown over from South America to the Galapagos long ago? Spread across different islands with different food sources, the birds faced a struggle to survive. On an island with only hard seeds, a bird with a slightly thicker beak by random chance would be better at eating, and therefore better at surviving. That bird would live long enough to have babies, passing on that thicker beak. Over thousands of generations, this process of natural selection would carve out an entirely new species. Nature was acting as a blind, unthinking breeder, selecting the traits best suited for survival. He called it descent with modification. Today, we call it evolution. Darwin had discovered the mechanism of life. He held the key to understanding the entirety of the natural world. So what did he do with this world-shattering revelation? He hid it. He locked his notebooks away for 20 years. He wrote and rewrote his theory in secret. Why? Because Darwin fully understood the terrifying implications of his own idea. If all life was connected through a vast, branching tree, evolving slowly over millions of years, then human beings were not placed uniquely apart from nature. We were a part of it. We were animals. In Victorian England, this was dangerous thinking. It went against the literal interpretation of the Bible, it went against the scientific establishment, and it went against the deeply held beliefs of his beloved, deeply religious wife, Emma. Publishing this theory felt like confessing to a murder. So he stalled. He spent 8 entire years obsessively studying barnacles, writing massive volumes on their tiny anatomies, perhaps to prove his credentials as a serious scientist before dropping his philosophical bomb. While he hesitated, his personal life was marked by immense love and devastating tragedy. Charles and Emma had 10 children, but infant mortality was a grim reality of the era. The deepest blow came when his favorite daughter, Annie, fell ill and died at the age of 10. Her death destroyed whatever remaining faith Darwin had in a benevolent, intervening creator. The natural world was beautiful, yes, but it was also brutal, indifferent, and driven by a relentless struggle for existence. His theory was no longer just an academic exercise, it was the raw, unvarnished truth of the world that had taken his daughter. Still, he might have delayed forever, endlessly revising his massive manuscript, if not for a package that arrived in the mail in 1858. The package was from Alfred Russel Wallace, a young, daring naturalist collecting specimens in the jungles of the Malay archipelago. Struck by a malarial fever, Wallace had a sudden moment of brilliant insight. He hastily wrote down an essay explaining how species might evolve through the survival of the fittest and sent it to the most famous naturalist he could think of for review. He sent it to Charles Darwin. Darwin was stunned. Reading Wallace's essay was like reading a summary of his own secret life's work. The young explorer had independently discovered natural selection. Faced with losing the priority of his life's work, Darwin was finally forced into the light. A joint presentation of their ideas was made to a scientific society, and then Darwin went into a frantic writing phase. He took his massive, sprawling manuscript and condensed it into what he called a single, long argument. In November of 1859, he published On the Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection. The first printing sold out instantly. It changed the world overnight. The reaction was explosive. Scientists debated it fiercely, religious leaders condemned it as an abomination, and the public was deeply polarized. Cartoons appeared in newspapers showing Darwin's head on the body of a chimpanzee. Yet the evidence he had meticulously gathered over decades was overwhelming. His argument was incredibly powerful, beautifully written, and impossible to ignore. He didn't just propose that evolution happened, he provided the undeniable mechanism of how it happened. He showed that the world was not a static museum display, but a dynamic, incredibly ancient, and constantly changing canvas. Charles Darwin spent the rest of his life in quiet contemplation at his country home, continuing his experiments and writing books on orchids, earthworms, and human emotions. When he died in 1882, the world recognized that they had lost a titan. Despite his fears of being outcast, he was buried with the highest honors in Westminster Abbey, right next to Isaac Newton. Today, his theory is the unifying foundation of all biology. It explains the resistance of bacteria to antibiotics, the incredible camouflage of insects, and the beating of our own hearts. From the lowest worm to the highest flying eagle, we are all bound together in a grand, ancient family tree. Darwin looked at a chaotic, confusing world, and he found the single, elegant thread that ties it all together. He showed us that there is grandeur in this view of life, with its several powers, having been originally breathed into a few forms or into one, and that, whilst this planet has gone cycling on according to the fixed law of gravity, from so simple a beginning, endless forms most beautiful and most wonderful have been, and are being, evolved. If this journey into the past has captivated you, don't forget to leave a like. It's the best way to support this project and help keep history alive. To continue uncovering the mysteries of the most fascinating figures who ever walked this earth, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. That way, you won't miss our next journey through time. Until next time.